Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. It is time for another one of our hotel videos with gross production value, sound that's sort of passable, and instead of Chris presenting, you get me and Richard.
Yeah, so lower production values straight off the bat.
But we just got our hands on the A7R IV. Only a few minutes, kind of tethered. We're going to get more chances to play with it later. We'll have a full video coming out for that, but we thought we'd jump in and quickly give you guys some of our initial impressions and a quick rundown of what we think is exciting. Let's start with the sensor.
It's a 61 megapixel full frame sensor, BSI as you'd expect, but you know, this is not the same technology as the A9. There is significant rolling shutter on display.
The silent shutter is something I would probably leave off unless it's time-lapse or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the big thing for me, which is we've got real-time tracking on another body. It's been limited to the A6400 and the A9, and it is my favorite interface for an autofocus system.
Yeah, essentially you can just point the camera at your subject, half press the shutter, and it will just track it. You don't have to think about it any more than that.
It'll switch to face, it'll switch to eye.
Yep, and that works in both photo and video now.
And also works with animals on this as well. We've got that.
IAF is both for people and animals.
I will say that the video implementation of it is pretty terrible. You've got to go into the menu, enable touch to track, as opposed to just a half press on the shutter. You got to take your eye off the viewfinder, poke on the back screen to enable it. But once you do it, it's great to have that kind of flexibility in video recording, and eye autofocus in video is pretty killer.
Yeah, surely what matters is developing the cool feature, not making it accessible to
No,
anyone.
you want to make people hunt for it. You can find a buried treasure 2 years later. Yeah. That's the Sony way. So the A7R III had Sony's first version of their pixel shift.
Yep.
This is a newer, better version in most ways.
Yeah, so on the A7R III, it shot 4 images, each displaced by 1 pixel, which cancelled out the Bayer pattern and meant you got full colour at every single pixel. This takes this further. It now takes 16 images and moves them half pixels each time. So you basically double your resolution in both dimensions, and you cancel out the Bayer pattern. So you get 240 megapixel images with full colour at every pixel.
The frustrating thing is you still can't preview this effect in camera, so you don't know if if there's anything wrong with the image, if you're actually getting that resolution bump, until you go and use Sony's Imaging Edge software, which is not my favorite raw processing software, to open those up.
But it's there if you need it. If you need, greater than medium format quality, in theory this will give it to you. The A7R IV also has a higher resolution viewfinder. If you've been watching the market, you won't be surprised to find it's a 5.76 million dot panel. Yeah,
we've seen it on the Panasonic S series, the Fuji GFX. It's a wonderful panel. The quirk with it is you have to choose in the menus whether you want resolution priority, where it's extremely sharp but refreshing at 60 frames per second, or if you want speed priority, where it's at 120 frames per second and lower resolution. We haven't been able to get a number on exactly what that resolution is yet.
Various aspects of the ergonomics have been improved. The grip has been redesigned to be deeper. That's apparently in response to sort of professional feedback.
It feels really good with some of the heavier lenses on there.
There's a larger AF on button.
The nipply thumbstick is better.
The nipply thumbstick is indeed better. The rear dial has been slightly redesigned to be more comfortable. And there's also, in theory, and there's also a locking toggle on the exposure comp button. So you can use it freely as you're shooting, but you can then just tap it down to lock it so it doesn't reset itself.
It's a nice system. It feels really good. Also, the on and off switch is a lot more pronounced and clicky. Feels great. The front dial as well has quite a bit more clicky, hardy, stoppy, more precise feel to it. Those are all the technical terms, Richard.
I think detent is the word you're looking for.
Okay. You tell us in the comments.
The weather sealing has been updated. There are now foam gaskets around the battery slot and the card compartment, and the rubber ports, all the port doors, engage much more firmly with the body to try and keep water out. So talking of card slots, the camera now has 2 UHS-2 slots, so you don't have to think about which card you put in which slot, and they're much more logically named. So the top slot is slot 1.
Makes perfect sense. However, we will no longer be able to use our Memory Stick Pro Duo cards that we all cherish so much.
Yeah.
End of an era. Let's talk video.
Yeah, I believe you were not that impressed.
I mean, in some regards, having the real-time tracking is the big standout for me. That's a big step in the right direction. But it's still 8-bit, even if you kick it out to an external recorder on it. And I don't find that's very usable with the S-Log3. The 4K data rate, we're still sitting at 100 megabits per second with H.264 compression. That's not that compelling either. It's the same thing we've seen for quite a while. Whether you're shooting 24 or 30p in full-frame recording, there's no crop on that. And same if we're doing 120 1080 with it. So it's really nice when we don't have to reframe shots, but then we get to...
Yeah, Super 35 mode. What was going on there?
So when you're shooting 24, it's a 1.6 crop, so just like Canon's APS-C format, nothing too egregious there. But if you go to 30 frames per second, it's a 1.8 crop, which makes calling it Super 35 mode maybe a little bit...
ambitious.
Yeah. They made one really nice step that we've been asking for forever. It's not gray focus points anymore. It's white or red.
So the menu system is essentially the same as before, and I do find it rather hard to navigate.
It's bad.
Yeah, I find I have to memorize the entire menu system. You know, there aren't suitable signposts to help you work out where you are. You can now define separate function menus for still and video shooting, which is great. But you touch the screen and nothing happens because they're not touch sensitive.
Even though they clearly look like they should be.
And they would be on every other camera. Also, there's still no option for lossless compression or even meaningfully visually lossless compression. You just have the choice of massive 61 megapixel files or the compression that basically loses you some of your DR if you try and push your images too far. Yep. That's a shame.
Richard, thank you for joining us for this glossily produced, I think epic is safe to say, video. We will have a much more polished full DPReview TV episode coming up very shortly. You guys will have tons of stuff up on the website.
Test images.
But hopefully this gives you a good idea if you need to just rush out and put your name on the pre-order list immediately. But we will see you all again very soon. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Instagram, Twitter. All good choices. I think I just nailed that.